Welcome to Consider This. We talk about the struggle of being human being and how we're sort of brought into the world without knowledge, information, experience. And from the moment we're born, we go through life absorbing knowledge, information, and having experiences. Unfortunately, all of it is not positive. Some of it can be, truly um, damaging. And so, what we talk about on this series is that there are probably some struggles that each of us face in life, and our issue will be our lack of knowledge, information, and guidance on how to navigate that aspect of life that we're currently challenged with. And so, on Consider This, we talk about various challenges that most humans are going to face in life since we all come into the world a blank slate without knowledge, information, and in a lot of respect, guidance. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the world who were raised in environments where the knowledge and guidance was provided. They're probably more, I don't know, what do you call, grounded humans. But for a lot of us, um, those things were not available. So we were sent into the world to navigate it, and there was a high expectation that we navigated successfully. How unrealistic was that? And so we talk about these items in the hopes that whatever topic we cover might be relevant to you. But it's highly possible that whatever we talk about might not be relevant to you. You may have already successfully navigated that aspect of life, or it just is not relevant to you. Probably more relevant to another viewer. But keep coming back, and I promise you, eventually, we're going to talk about the topic that, hit you uh, straight on. So today on Consider This, we're going to talk about the unpredictability of life. Um, excuse me, if you're anything like me, you also believe that life should be easy, that there is a place in life where it'll be easy. And unfortunately for me, that was not a realistic perspective on life. Um, Thus far, I've come to the understanding that life is hard. Life is going to be hard. And life is supposed to be hard. It's because humans grow when we navigate life, right? And so most humans will prefer a comfort zone, and that probably includes not navigating whatever aspect of life has presented itself. But the thing about the comfort zone is there's no growth. Nothing changes in the comfort zone. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so it's only through engaging life when it presents itself um, can we navigate it successfully and grow. This is what humans do. And so let's talk about adapting to change, in the ever changing world, right? The concept that the only constant in life is change was never presented to me. Um, the perspective just never existed. I suppose, like most, I went through the grade school um, conditioning, learned how to join the herd and not stand out, not be unique, or, there was hell to catch. Um, and so what I found is that they taught me what to think. They did not teach me how to think. And so now at this age, unfortunately, um, or even fortunately, I have to do the work on the back end. It may have been nice to have been in an environment where I've got the knowledge and the guidance early on, but this is my story. So we're talking about how change is constant, but a lot of people expect that change is a bad thing. Um, that it's possible to live in an existence where nothing changes. Well, that's not possible. Things are going to change. And in a lot of recovery groups, they'll use this term, when life shows up. Well, life shows up constantly, every day, all day long. And there's going to be a challenge for a human who doesn't have the knowledge or the information or the guidance to navigate that aspect of life showing up. It could be anything, emotional intelligence, it could be healthy relationships, it could be finances. If you did not get the knowledge and the guidance to navigate that aspect of life, uh, there's going to be a struggle. And then there's a degree that we need to be honest when we find ourselves struggling as we navigate life, to admit, I really don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to need some help. That aspect there is going to require some humility. I don't even know if I have any humility. I think I spent most of my life being humiliated because of my lack of humility. And so, hopefully, um, as I move forward in my recovery process, I'm going to gain a little more humility and understanding. I'm not really in control of a lot of things, people, some situations. I have no power over, and the skill to be able to identify what I can and what I can't control is a powerful tool to have. But of course, when we talk about tools or skills, our ability to utilize them is going to be based on practice, right? Whatever skill we currently, please excuse me, whatever skill we currently possess, we probably only have that skill because we practiced it, and we're good at it because we practiced it, right? And the more practice we perform, the more expert we become. And so life skills require practice too, right? And so when we talk about accepting that change is inevitable, then that will place us in a more um, open-minded, adaptable perspective in life because it's going to change, whether we want it to or not. And the changes can be subtle, um, or they could be major, but change is going to happen. And so if we can get to a place of acceptance that that's how reality really is, and of course, um, uh, be able to identify what we can and what we can't change, and of course, stop trying to change what you have no power over, because that's just frustrating. And to continue that frustration could lead to anger. So we really do want to practice that skill. Um, we talk about the uncertainty of life, right? And and how it's possible that uncertainty could be a benefit to us. Because for a lot of people, I mean, like me, we for somehow we thought we knew everything there was to know about life. Even at a younger age, not being on the planet but a few years, believing I knew everything there was to know. And even into my adulthood, I think a lack of maturity also had me believing that I knew everything, right? But when we look at my history, obviously, I didn't know a lot of it. And unfortunately, had to face the embarrassment uh, of, of admitting to people I had been telling all my life I knew what I was doing. I don't know what I'm doing, and I need some help to navigate whatever aspect of life I was struggling with. I find that achieving that degree of honesty and a degree of humility to ask for help, I was able to get help. And so I would like to continue practicing that um, life skill because nobody knows everything, right? We all know something. And you have some information that could be very valuable in helping me navigate a struggle a challenge of life that you've successfully navigated. And I have some information regarding a challenge of life that you are struggling with that I successfully navigated. But it doesn't happen, until we come together, until we engage each other. Um, then we can exchange the relevant information. Um, and so it's possible that a lot of our innovation and creation can be the result of the uncertainty of life as things happen, place us in positions. There may be an opportunity um, to attach ourselves to whatever degree of creativity and innovation we might possess. We don't want to forget that. Remember, we were conditioned in grade school, right, to not display these things, right. It was about becoming a part of the herd, and any degree of uniqueness or difference from the herd, you were designated the difficult child in class. And in my day, being designated difficult child in class, had its repercussions, right? Especially when you got home. So there is a conditioning that says, we must line up, behind one another, and we wait for the bells and the whistles and the alarms, which signal some action must be taken. And now, that we've got this conditioning that says I have to become a part of the herd, and I cannot or should not show any uniqueness. Um, Now we're talking about accessing my, what do we call it? I want to be authentic, right? I want to be who I really am and not who I have been conditioned to be by society. Just another part of the herd, right? I have to um, get beyond that mask to see who I really am and what I'm really about. And that's possible if we're not so knotted up about the change that's going to happen in our lives on a regular basis. If we're open minded to understanding that change is going to happen, we're probably going to roll with the punches a little easier. And also, when we're struggling, we have to accept that we're going to need help to navigate whatever that struggle is successfully. Um, the role of resilience in overcoming, life when it presents itself. Well, resilience is a great thing to possess, but again, that's going to be, sort of subjective. And to what degree of resilience, do I possess? Can I handle a big life uh, presentation, the loss of a loved one that was really close to me that I was able to make a spiritual connection with? Do I have the resilience for that? Uh, how about um, how about another form of loss? Right? I got scammed on the internet, and they cleaned out my bank account. Am I able? Am I resilient enough to handle that aspect of life presenting itself? Well, to each of us, that's the question. And I suppose resilience is a characteristic that humans are capable of. But maybe without enough practice, at utilizing or using our resilience, maybe maybe we're not getting enough practice, right? And so maybe from birth until today, when life has presented itself to us, we have exercised our resilience muscles, and so maybe we're a little more able to handle some, bigger things. But loss is not a joke for humans. Loss has a impact on our spirit, not so much on the physical or the psychological, but loss really affects us spiritually as humans, and that spiritual damage is not anything to be played with. That has to be addressed, and so we want to be open-minded and consider that we should seek some help for those types of impacts on us. Embracing serendipity as part of the human journey, right? So serendipity is some concept that life can be happy, and meaningful, um, and fulfilling and rewarding, all at the same time. And so, to be honest, I have not experienced serendipity. What I have experienced is a open mindedness and the willingness um, to consider that it's possible to achieve some degree of peace in my life as I go forward. And fortunately, it has been shown to me that a lot of my um, ability to achieve peace is based on my choices and my decisions. As I look at my past history, I made some bad choices and decisions that were directly responsible for the loss of my peace. And so, again, just new skills to practice. Things like boundaries, right? Now, does anybody know anything about boundaries? We talk about self care, self awareness, things that would be useful in our lives going forward. But these are not things that we are usually taught as we grow up, right? Society could care less about those aspects that have to do with being human. Society just wants us to be compliant, submissive workers, which is why the conditioning starts at grade school. 10 hours facing forward, right? And again, they'll teach you what to think, but they ain't going to teach you how to think, right? And if you are not compliant, you're going to catch hell, right? Starting in grade school, right? They'll teach us to seek the outside validation of authority figures, the teacher, right? She's loving on the kid that gets the gold star, but her relationship with the children who doesn't get the gold star is a little different. And although she may not say it, children are perceptive. They can figure out the relationship's different, right? And so this goes on through life. They teach us things that will help us to achieve a skill that can benefit society later on in life. They're not teaching us about emotional intelligence. They're not teaching us about healthy relationships. They're not really ensuring that we understand finances, savings, uh, budgeting, um, investing, right? We hear a lot of information coming from family, friends, and society, right? And a lot of that information really is not based in reality, right? Unfortunately, we've chosen some information into our lives because that's what we do as humans. We came into the world blank and we started to absorb knowledge, information, and have experiences, and just all of it wasn't good, right? And so the fact that I've been conditioned to grind my life away working a 9 to 5 until I drop dead. At no point are they encouraging me to go out into the world and explore and be creative. Well, now with all of the new talk about mental health and self care. It's all about, you know, the internal individual, right? As if I know who my internal individual is. You condition me to be a part of the herd all my life. Now you're telling me I need to access the creativity in me when you really shot that down very early on in grade school. But it is what it is. Um, Humans came into the world to absorb this knowledge. It's not our fault that we are the way we are, but we are responsible for the cleanup on the back end. And so, whatever aspect of life we find ourselves struggling with, look, it's not going to be the devil. It's going to be a lack of knowledge, information, and a lack of guidance to navigate whatever that aspect of life that we find ourselves struggling with, right? And this perspective of accepting the unpredictability of life is sort of hard for humans because we like to think about having some degree of control. It's hard to let go of that, right? But the reality is, our degree of control is very limited. And it's best for us if we're able to identify what we have power over and what we don't. It's best for us. That way we can stop frustrating our days away trying to control things we have no power over, right? And so the unpredictability of life becomes a little more acceptable if we can, give up the requirement to be in charge of everything all the time. Because life is going to show up the way it's going to show up without your permission. And if your perception of being in control is challenged by life showing up, guess who's going to win? Guess I think life is undefeated, right? And so, look, you probably don't want to continue to, have that match. You want to uh, work on getting um, that what we call a life skill to be able to identify what you can control and what you can't, right? And what we can what we can't control, we turn over, right? And just take action with the aspects of life that we can control. Whatever it is we're struggling with, there is a resource that is knowledgeable and is able to guide us to navigate that aspect of life successfully. But again, there has to be a degree of honesty that I don't know what I'm doing and admit that I'm struggling. Even though the facts show I'm struggling, I could still act like, no, no, I'm all right. I'm I, I can imagine how many times I act like, I was balling and stuff was falling apart around me. So, look, humans are pretty complicated creatures. Uh, and so we were talking about just another aspect of being human and the unpredictability of life and how having acceptance that we don't control everything, how um, changing our perspective to be able to understand that the only constant in life is change and understand that we have no control over that um, can set us up to achieve some of these, phrases that we hear all the time, right? Serendipity, um, you know, peace, you know, um, contentment, meaning, purpose. All of these things are possible with the right knowledge, guidance. And of course, it's going to come to a skill set, um, even if it's just simply an open minded understanding that this is the reality of life and not the one that I put together in my own head. Because the one I put together in my own head really hasn't worked out in my best interest. Um, hasn't worked out for me. And I keep hearing that this rumor that Edison um, discovered 10,000 ways to not make a light bulb. So the guy needed 10,001 ways to successfully create a light bulb? Jeez. We had mentioned resilience earlier. Is that some resilience for you or what? I mean, look, I know a little something about me. I would have quit after the third attempt failed, okay? We're going back to candles. Let somebody else invent the light bulb. We just keep burning candles, all right? That's my degree of resilience, right? But the thing is, as we navigate life's challenges and find ourselves struggling, we can go at it again, but hopefully from a different angle, right? A different technique, right? Trying to attempt the same thing the same way over and over and expecting a different result. We already know how that's, you know, how that's labeled, right? So whatever it is we're struggling with, we should push through the fear and try to navigate it. And if we're not successful, we can continue to try to go at the problem and, hopefully we'll be using different techniques, angles, ideas as we continue to go after it. But at some point, we need to be honest that, okay, I don't have the knowledge, the information I need to navigate this challenge. And so let me identify a resource that is knowledgeable and that can guide me to navigate this aspect of life successfully. Um, when it comes to the unpredictability of life, again, that's going to be the ability of me to uh, absorb the reality that my power is limited, what I can control. My perspective needs to probably be addressed and cleaned up because obviously it's not totally based in reality. I want to try to live in reality and not just simply my own personally created perspective about how life should be. I'd like to be in reality and accept life as it is. I'd like to, obtain a degree of peace within me, right? To a point to where I know I'm doing all the best that I can do regarding my health, regarding my wellness, um, which I know will be a benefit to the rest of the world, right? A lot of people, attempt to get healthier, to probably save a job or a marriage or a relationship, right? We find a lot of times that that really doesn't work as much as, um, you know, when you start to clean up your act because you want to clean up your act, that's usually a little more successful. And the truth is, everybody's going to benefit when we're healthy, when we're well, right? I mean, the neighbor's going to benefit, co-workers, classmates, right? Any strangers we might meet in the future. Everybody's going to benefit when we're healthy and when we're well. We're not doing it for them, but knowing that I would do my best in my recovery program to become more healthy and more well in all aspects of my life as best I can just knowing that they're going to benefit anyway, right? When we start to turn the focus on us and turn the work internal, people aren't going to be happy about you getting healthy. People ain't going to be happy about you getting well because people are accustomed to how you were, right? Maybe um, these types of insights have you distancing yourself from others. It may be a necessary part of the process for you. People won't be happy about that, right? Because people are only human, friends, family. They're accustomed to having access to us. If that access becomes less, there may be some trouble, right? And some people, only human, just like me, just like you, right? They're no longer able to manipulate us as they're accustomed to, so they're not going to be happy about, right? Hopefully, in this whole process, we can have some grace and understand that they're only human, right? And they're struggling to navigate life just like, just like we are, just like we're talking about here, right? And so maybe we could have some grace for them in their struggle, right? No, we do the work because we want to do the work. We do the work because we want to be healthier, right? And if we can be healthier spiritually, mentally, emotionally, I mean, how could that be a bad thing? Except, again, like I said, for others who have an agenda. But we should understand that, others are only human. They're not going to be perfect. No one has ever been perfect. I've never been perfect. That expectation of perfection has to go because we're never going to be perfect. We're only going to be able to do the best we can. And so, should we encounter the negative judgment or criticism of what it is we're trying to do as we try to get healthier, uh, maybe have some grace that they're struggling too. Maybe that's an aspect of human relationship that they should start to work on, or that they could benefit from getting better with, right? But we don't want to do any preaching or anything like that. It all just sounds like preaching anyway. So all we can do is be an example of what is possible. And so as we get healthier, as we get well, we can be that example. Anyone who chooses to achieve the same would probably step to us and ask us, how are you doing it? How are you remaining calm while all around you is blowing up crazy, right? And so hopefully you will have the information, the knowledge that they require, and that you can guide them, to successfully navigate that aspect of life. And so, that's always a hope. And so today we talked about one, accepting that the inevitability of life is change. That's the only constant. Things will change always, right? And two, accepting that we are powerless, right, over how life presents itself. Right? We can only control how we respond to it, but we don't usually respond to it. We usually react to it. And so, again, we have work to do so that we can learn to respond to life when it presents itself and not just react. Um, three, um, to have an open minded perspective about life that change is not all bad and that change is not a personal attack. Change is just what has to happen. Until we have that acceptance, we could always feel like we're a victim of change because it's constantly happening. right? And so maybe, maybe we could change to go along with the change. Consider that. Right? If you're trying to stay the same and change is happening, mm, I have to go back to the old Dr. Phil. How's that working for you? Right? And so, if it ain't, it ain't, right? If we can be honest about that, and then if we have a degree of humility to ask for help, right? Um, we're talking about for resilience, right? That would be different for each individual, but we want to start to utilize that character in us, right? And if we haven't practiced it enough, our resilience muscles might not be so strong, right? So we want to start to practice those resilience muscles so that we'll be able to handle whatever life is about to present to us going forward. And we talked about being able to achieve this degree of, these terms you've heard, serendipity and, peace and, contentment, feeling of worth, feeling of purpose, you know, um, right. And so it's possible, I'm sure. I have not experienced it. And so that is part of my challenge to do the work necessary so that one day I may be able to say clearly, oh, so this is what serendipity feels like. This is what it feels like, right? I'm still working on getting a degree of peace in my life by learning how to turn the things over I can't control and take action in the things I can control, right? Having an open mind to accept that change is constant and it's going to happen, right? And that I need to learn to respond to life and not just react to it. And so hopefully, if I continue this course, this path, it's going to come together in some type of revelation. But I'll let you know when I get there, right? And look, and as you've been going on your journey thus far, you can leave a comment, you know, in the comment section. Let me know what it is you're doing, you know, to increase your degree of health and wellness, right? Um, and it might be beneficial for me in my process. Um, if you don't mind, hit the like button, and we could always use subscribers. We're new, and we're just putting some information out there that has become um, um, identified by me that I thought might be helpful to other humans. And I'm hoping you're one of those humans that can benefit from my perspective about the challenge of being a human. Although we came into the world a blank slate, there was a whole lot of expectation that we be successful. And for a lot of us, there was no instruction manual, there was no quick start guide, and there was no guidance. But there was a heavy expectation that we be successful in life. And that just wasn't fair. And that's not based in reality. And whatever information we absorbed up to this point, whatever knowledge we absorbed, whatever experiences we had up to this point, that's who we are. And it's not our fault because it's what we do. We absorb knowledge. It's part of being human. We have experience. It's part of being human. And whatever those experiences were, whatever that knowledge is, now we've got to do the work to identify what aspect of those experiences and knowledge that we have absorbed, you know, is killing us, is tearing our spirit apart. So, just a suggestion that, it's possible that we can become fulfilled in this lifetime And so, you know, one day at a time. For some of us, we live in the moment, right? Because we know the next moment's not promised. So, right here with you today, right here, right now, I'm going to work on doing the right thing, and that's all I can do right here, right now, to the best of my ability, right? I hope to be able to focus on the same goal in the next moment, but the next moment ain't promised. Oh, there it goes. The next moment. Hey, I was able to navigate that, and I'm going to continue to do the right thing. But, right, whatever's going to happen half an hour from now, I can only do my best to respond to it, to navigate it. And if I'm struggling, I should probably seek some help from a source that is familiar, knowledgeable, and can help guide me to navigate it successfully. We're not talking about, you know, just accepting advice and suggestions from any source, right? Because, look, family and friends, they're human too. If we were raised in the same environment, there may be some of the same conditioning that they're struggling with in life, right? We want to make sure that wherever we seek guidance from is a source that is knowledgeable and can truly give us useful knowledge and experience. So again, you know, this is what it is. Being human is no joke, right? And so the unpredictability of life just simply is what life is, right? And there's no way to make it predictable, right? There's just no control over that. We want to learn how to exist, along with the unpredictability of life. And so I want to thank everyone for tuning in um, this session. And, hopefully some of the chat we've had is useful to you or relevant to you. If not, maybe it's more relevant to another viewer. But look, tune in next week, and I promise you that eventually the topic we discussed is going to hit home because we're all human, and we're going to talk about the challenges that all humans, struggle with. And so again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next week on Consider This. And thank you again for tuning in.